And I am so excited to bring to you a conversation with Liza J. Rankow, who is the author of Soul Medicine. Soul Medicine is an incredible book that I have just gotten a chance to dive into in the last few days. And I'm going to actually ask Liza if she can give you the full title because for some reason it's not. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Soul Medicine for a Fractured World. Okay. Can we use that? Can we use some soul medicine for a fractured world? Yes, we can. And the subtitle is Healing, Justice, and the Path to
of
Justice
of wholeness.
and the Path of Wholeness. The Path of Wholeness. Thank you so much. I was like, oh, that was wrong.
Well,
So,
and it's a subtle difference, but it's an important one in terms of the message. So
yes, no, it is. And in fact, your whole last part of the book is really about that healing and wholeness part. Like, how are we going to get there? So I can't tell you honestly how much, in fact, I was just telling you a little bit of how much resonance there was for me as I was reading your book. I felt like, wow, like I'm seeing, and what I love about what you do is that, I mean, I was writing from a very specific evangelical space.
Mhm.
And I was looking at the scripture alone, really, and asking, this, how is it possible that my um, evangelical understanding of the good news of Jesus would not be good news for my ancestors who were enslaved? Like when I realized they would not be jumping for joy to know that they were sinful and therefore separated from God, right? Like, and I, so that led me on a search that brought me to shalom, the biblical concept of shalom, and realizing that really what shalom is this radical connectedness
Yeah.
of all things, and that was the original vision of God. So through an evangelical framework,
Wow.
I then explored this biblical concept of shalom. And what blew my mind as I was reading your book is that it brought me to a lot of the same conclusions that you came to from a multi-faith perspective. And so let me introduce to you Dr. Liza J. Rankow. Dr. Liza J. Rankow is an interfaith minister, an educator, an activist, an author, and she is the founder and former executive director of One Life Institute. And it's an organization that served for almost 20 years to nurture the well-being of frontline change makers. And the thing is, we're here to talk about her book, this new book that just came out kind of over the last month. We were kind of laughing about how she had a kind of a soft launch of her book where some of it came out in some spaces a month ago and in other places it's just coming out now. And so we're excited that it's here and we are talking about Soul Medicine for a Fractured World by Orbis. It was published by Orbis Books. And now, Liza, what we always do when we start our conversations is we always start with our word. What is the word that characterizes how we are entering into the space today? Like, what are we bringing in with us? And I'll start. My word today is excited. I'm excited to talk with you and to pelt you with a bunch of questions because I have so many questions after reading your book. Good questions, meaty. What's your word?
I think in this moment, because I thought about it before and I had something different, but in this moment,
Okay.
my word is appreciation. That I'm really grateful to be here with you, Lisa. We were saying before, it's just amazing that we don't already know each other because we have wonderful people in common and obviously our orbits intersect. So I am really grateful for the invitation and thankful to see where this conversation goes. I just know, like in my bones and my spirit, that we're going to go deep. It's not just going to be, frivolous talk.
We don't do this here. We don't. Kitchen table is for the deep stuff. Kitchen table is for the raw, right? It's for the let's really go there and let's be real, right? So, yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that too. And I have to say, like, there are several people. I was telling you this before. There are several people who endorsed your book who wrote beautiful blurbs inside and out. And I was blown away, first of all, by the caliber of many of the, I mean, Alice Walker. Alice Walker, somebody, Alice Walker. Like the great grandmom of womanist ethics, of womanism,
Mhm.
wrote a blurb for your book that just really freaking floored me. Okay, I am right
She's
now.
become a good friend, so
Oh man, well please
pretty
tell her I said hi.
almost Lisa, almost everybody who endorsed me is actually a friend in real life.
I believe it.
The cold press aid mostly didn't respond, but my friends did.
Right, right. Well, I'll tell. Yes, exactly. Isn't that the way it always works? Well, I am blown away by the caliber of your friends. Then, I mean, you had Barbara Holmes and Michelle Alexander as well, and then a bunch of my friends who are also your friends, which is one of the reasons why it's amazing that we haven't met yet.
Right.
Valerie Kaur and Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams and Jen Bailey. I mean, these are all people that I've been rolling with and really sharpening with for like the last decade or so. And that's just really to name a few because you have a lot more endorsements over in the book.
Mhm.
So this kind of support, it struck me, doesn't come from just one book, I mean, or even one good book. This is coming from a lifetime of high impact inside of a high impact community. And so I just wondered if you could tell us a bit, just to start, um, a bit of your own story and how your story intersects with this incredible community of leaders.
That's such an interesting way to phrase the question.
Mm.
And I think the only real answer I can make to the question that you just asked is spirit. Is that, kindred find one another.
Right.
I marvel, and I say this actually, I wish the acknowledgments were in the front of the book. They're on, like, the last possible page of the
I
book.
know. That's how it always works.
And I marvel at the people who I call friends, the people who I call my family, my circle.
Mhm.
It's preposterous, right? There is no logical way
Yeah.
that, a half Jewish girl from New York City would end up being friends with Dr. Vincent Harding, Sister Alice Walker. I mean, like, how does that happen? Except divine appointment? I mean, we recognize each other and the universe conspires to bring us together. I think that's the most honest answer I can give.
I really do believe that. I think it's really true. And to look at your community is really to look at, in many ways, a force that has been moving in the world,
Yes.
a preservative force, actually, I think, that's been, and a transformative force that's been moving in the world at least for the last 50 years. And so, just even before we begin, can I just say thank you? Thank you for what you have poured out already and for the ways that you have invested in your own life and sharpening your own thinking so that you could offer us a book like this. And their praise was great, not just because they liked you or they're your friends, but because it really is a great book and it really is needed right now. One example of that is how you open the book. You open it with this quote by Howard Thurman. And Howard Thurman, he's one of my heroes.
Like
Absolutely. Did you ever meet him, by the way? I mean, I'm wondering.
not in the body, but I knew his daughter Olive became a friend.
Oh, wow.
His grandchildren, I know. But
Mhm.
I was at Fellowship Church when I moved out here. Dr. Thurman had passed away. Even Mrs. Thurman had actually passed away by the time I moved here.
Okay.
But I have found him so present in the spirit,
Mhm.
and particularly working on the Thurman audio collection that
Oh, wow.
Dr. Luther Smith and Thurman's daughter Olive and I co-birthed in 2010,
Mhm.
and just spending so many hours
Mm.
tarrying with him and really asking his guidance from the ancestral world. Like, Doc, how do we put 50, 60 years worth of recordings into a 7-hour offering?
Wow.
What needs to go here? Where do the edits need to be? It was truly one of the more amazing experiences that I've had in terms of that direct relationship
Mhm.
with someone who I did not know. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
tight with my ancestors who I knew when they when they were here.
Right, right.
Someone who I never met in the
Mhm.
body, but who I met through his work,
Mhm.
and I met through teaching him, and I met through, the grain of the wood in the pulpit at Fellowship Church when I put my hands on the podium.
Wow.
Um, Again, I marvel at the path that my life has opened. Uh,
Mhm.
and it was not one that I planned out, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is spirit. I love how you answered that. I mean, the quote that he gives, do you mind if I read it? Or that because
It's
you
one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites, actually, yes.
I had actually not heard it before. I had not read it before. What you said is all around us worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree, the roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against a time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lungs, the one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair. I'll
You've
stop
got an 8
here.
corner back there, yeah.
That's Babe. Babe always has to have her say. Yes, she does. She's barking at my mom who's moving around upstairs right now. So, all right. So, but that blew my mind that you opened the book with this. When did you start writing this book?
Another multi-layered question, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because there's a way that I've been writing it my whole life.
Mm,
There's a way that I've been writing it since I finished my doctorate 20 some years ago, or more accurately, not writing it since I finished my doctorate, because of course the plan was
yeah.
I had to become the person who could write this book.
Mm,
If I had written the book 20 years ago, it would have been coming from a different place because I had to ripen, I think.
hmm
The work that we did through Life Institute, the teaching that I've done, the challenges that I've lived through, uh,
hmm
all of that helped to form me
hmm
so the book used me, right? Because,
Yep.
I wrote the book, but the book wrote me in the process too.
Mm.
Literally, when did I open
Yeah.
up the
Put the
Scrivener thing and do that?
yeah, yeah.
um, I was going to start it in 2020 when I turned 60, but then, COVID and trying to run the nonprofit to pivot to do the nonprofit virtually instead of in person.
hmm
So it really wasn't until 2021 that
2021.
I
That's the thing.
gave myself to it. But I don't quote me exactly on a
Sure.
certain.
No, but here's my point. My point is you started this a long time ago.
Yeah,
This moment
yeah,
needs this word right now.
yeah.
Like literally, it's amazing that this book is coming out right now because Lord knows all around us worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. Just for you to put that as the very first words of your book, I said, oh, okay, here we go. This is going to be a
Right.
prophetic reading. I know this is like, all right, this is spirit speaking. So I wanted to also let you know, I love how your book is structured. I like that you have
Mhm.
written it in 4 parts, the portal, restoring wholeness. Um, part 3, what is part 3? I don't have it written down here.
Girl, I have to look at the book. I don't.
Oh, no, it's healing
I'll tell you,
separation. So part
healing, separate, and then
right, and then a wider world,
a wider belonging.
wider belonging. And so sorry that I got that wrong on the page. So, but the thing that is really like how you separated these sections, because what you're doing is you're obviously taking us on a journey. And the very first part of the book, um, it felt like, okay, we're packing for the journey, and we're getting everything we need in order to take along. So I want to kind of throw out a few questions to you um, as we begin to dive into the book, and you can take these questions wherever you want. My questions are kind of going by chapter. I don't want you to tell me the whole book, obviously, because we want people to read it. But these particular concepts really stood out to me, and I wanted to ask you to flesh them out. So the first one is a word that I had not heard before: apocatastasis.
Yeah.
What? Like,
I
that's a word.
haven't heard that before either. So
Apocatastasis? Like, what is this? And so tell us what that is. And this is on chapter 1, y'all. Chapter 1.
so when I tell you that this whole writing process was the most magical journey in how things would just drop in. Sometimes they just dropped in directly through intuition.
Uh,
Sometimes they dropped in through a podcast. Apokatastasis was a word I had never heard. I was listening to a podcast from Michael Meade, the mythologist,
yeah.
and he was talking about the archetype of apocalypse, and it's a pairing. So apocalypse is the dying part. Akatadasa is the rebirth. My hands, the dying.
Oh, at the same time.
So they are constantly flowing into each other.
Hmm.
And apokatastasis, literally, if you do the word study, is restoration to an original wholeness. Right?
Yes.
And so as we are in what more and more people are referring to as apocalyptic times, and from chapter 1, I unpack the nuances. It's not just like zombies and, the
Right.
destruction of everything,
Yeah.
but it is an archetypal process of death and rebirth, of destruction and renewal that has occurred multiple times throughout human existence.
Hmm.
Probably before we ever got here anyway, because we're new, we're new to the place, really.
Yeah, that's true.
But when I heard that word and when I began to explore it,
Mhm.
I was like, well, damn, there it is,
There it is.
right?
Wow.
What a different way to approach apocalyptic times, to see them as part of this cycle that includes, like, not just we could make up maybe, but that literally in the archetype includes this both andness.
Right. It is both birth and death at the same time. Both for an
It's
end
cycle.
and a
It's
beginning.
cycle.
It's a cycle. You actually said in the chapter, in the explanation, I believe, of apocastasis, the end of the world is actually the end of an age.
Yes.
And so, when we think of apocalypse, we usually think of everything blowing up and it's all bad. But actually, it's simply a continuum in time, which you go into later and you talk about the time is not linear, and that's a whole other thing because we will go there. Um, but that it's an age that is ending. You also said this is actually how do we hospice the dying world? Oh, what a great question!
Mhm.
How do we hospice the dying world while simultaneously midwifing the emerging one?
Right.
What do you think of that? Like, share with us what your thoughts were that you laid out in your book and maybe even come to since then.
It's another both and, right? I mean, to me, so much of spirit life is paradox, is inhabiting a both and, not an either or. That binary either or thinking, that paradigm is what got us in this mess,
Mhm.
right? That's the dominant way of thinking of the current regime of colonial capitalism, go down the list.
Yeah, yeah.
hospicing is different than just destruction or celebrating. Like, thank God that's gone, right? You know,
Yeah, yeah,
there's a reverence to it. You
yeah.
know, if anybody has accompanied someone through their dying journey,
Mhm.
it's a sacred time.
It is, and it's one full of care.
Yes.
It's one full of love,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how do I mean, this it's a growing Dr. Thurman talks about your growing edge. I got a lot of growing edges in
Mhm,
this book. This is one, right?
mhm.
Because there's part of me that's like, thank God, good riddance,
Yeah,
to 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 colonialism and patriarchy and all of that mess.
yeah.
And it's, my aversion, right? So how do I challenge myself then to come with love, right? Not saying that shit is okay, because
That's
it's not,
that's right.
but how do we bring that quality of reverence, which is what allows transformation? Because there's a lot of healing and transformation that can happen in
Mhm.
a dying process. There's
Wow.
a lot of reconciliation, there's a lot of awakening, not always,
Mhm.
but the potential is there, you
You
know?
know, it also strikes me, Liza, that in order to engage in hospice of someone, you have to respect them. And
Mm,
there's something about this image of hospicing the age of colonialism, the age of domination, the age of patriarchy, the age that there's not that those again, not that those things are okay or good or even acceptable. They are not. But the people, right? The
mm,
people who held on to them were human.
mm.
And there's a respect for the humans who have to let it go. It's almost like we're hospice. I feel like when I read that, I almost felt like you were calling us to hospice those who have benefited from the former
Mm.
system in order to it's not obviously they're not dying, but work with me here. It's like a hospice
Honor.
them through a transition,
Yeah, yeah.
walking with them, caring for them in the midst of this transition. Is that
You
part
know, I see, this is why I'm glad that you and I are in conversation, because nobody has gone here before with me in these conversations, and what I love most is that when I learn something new, so as you're speaking and unpacking this hospicing piece, I'm making a connection that I never made before,
okay?
which is later in the book, and I talk about the imperative of liberation of spiritual into, my we have the oppressor has to be transformed in
Yeah.
order for oppression to be transformed.
Yes. Yes. That's actually in your fourth or third. It's your third part.
Yeah,
Talk about
in
whiteness.
in the chapter about both the worldview of dualism versus oneness, and then versus, right there it is.
Hmm.
And then the healing whiteness chapter. But I had not made the connection before, Lisa. The hospital.
Hmm.
So if we're talking about transforming the consciousness of the oppressor as part of the necessary path to collective liberation,
Right. Right.
hospicing gives us a doorway into transformation as opposed to just the death of a thing. I
Yes.
never put those together before, but it feels true, doesn't it?
It does. It's almost like it's 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 the death of a caterpillar as it becomes a butterfly. It's the death of a thing, but the thing still exists, but the way that it exists is different.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so you also said in this time you talked about the wilderness, and so can you talk to us about the purpose of wilderness times because we are obviously in one of those? What is the purpose of this cray cray that we're in the middle of right now?
Yeah. I- I- the wilderness, and I offer some different ways that it's described in different faith and cultural
Yeah.
lineages.
Mhm.
But it's a time of formation. Formation is not comfortable.
Mm.
It's really, really not a comfortable place.
Mhm.
Since you already raised the metaphor of the caterpillar and the butterfly,
Yeah.
it's not that a caterpillar, retreats into this little lovely cocoon and then voila, it emerges as a butterfly. It has to completely deconstruct and break down to the cellular level. It turns into goo. It catabolizes itself. It digests its own body and completely dissolves into this goo. And then out of that goo, then you gotta love the poetry of science. Imaginal cells, I kid you not, imaginal cells, which were on the body of the caterpillar that are present in that goo, begin to connect with each other. And at first, they're destroyed by the immune system of the caterpillar as other until sufficient numbers of them join together. And that is what moves it forward into this metamorphosis. I mean, the metaphor is so much more apt than we realize, right? We're in the goo stage right now.
We are
The
goo.
wilderness, to me, the wilderness is goo, right?
That's true. I mean, everything's been broken down. We're kinda in this cocoon, hopefully.
And and the emergence is not guaranteed, right?
So, come on.
Have to come together with that. And in the last section of the book that you didn't get to yet, there's a chapter called Dream and Imagine.
Yes, yes, yes.
So to evoke the power and the possibility
Mm.
of our collective imagination. So
Mhm.
we're not just fighting against the thing that we don't want, but we are calling in and giving our creative life juice
Mm.
to this, what we do want. There's so much power in that.
My God. And the beauty and the power of the butterfly that can come as a result of our focused energy of into
But
transformation.
we turn into goo first.
We have to do the goo. We don't wanna do the goo. They don't wanna do the goo. Who wants to do the goo?
Nobody the goo.
Nobody likes the goo.
No wants to do the goo.
One of the things that you wrote was, "We are not helpless bystanders at the mercy of apocalyptic changes," which was, like, honestly, like, my whole body went, "Whoa." We are not helpless bystanders
Mm.
at the mercy of apocalyptic
Mhm.
changes.
Right.
We have a role
Yes.
in transformation. So I wanna ask you, what is that role? What is our role in transformation?
I mean, there's a way that each of us has our own role that we must discern, perhaps through tarrying in the wilderness, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's also a way that there's a collective role.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
on the collective. Humanity is pedal to the metal, heading for the edge of the cliff,
Mhm.
but we don't have to be. We can make a different choice. How many imaginal cells does it take to coalesce for a vision
Right.
to shift the direction of the vehicle, to shift the direction of the collective consciousness?
Mm.
What my teacher in Ghana calls the soul of humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we awaken the soul of humanity? And so what I would call the individual purpose that each of us carries,
Right. Yeah.
becomes part of the equation of shifting the collective.
Mm. It's really beautiful. In your next chapter, you say purpose belongs to the soul rather than the ego. I was like, oh, snap. Like, wow. Because, I mean, really, truly, our world today is almost like 100% fired by ego. Um, Not only at the very top, like in the top echelons of our governments around the world, we have the rise of authoritarian dictators and oligarchs who are just like full on ego and id. Like it's,
Mm,
um, but you also have in the base line of our economy right now, it's the gig economy. It's the economy of entrepreneurs who entrepreneurship is wonderful. And I mean, look, I'm one, right? But it is one where it's really um it's like there are lots of traps that are laid in this economy that could ensnare
mhm,
anyone
mhm,
into the belief that image is everything,
mm,
or what you project into the world is what is true versus what you are living in your body.
mm,
Or what others are projecting into the world is what is true versus what they are living in their body.
mhm,
Um, and so ego is in many ways like powering our economy right now. So I was really struck by that line. And you add Thurman begins the inquiry with this, who are you? Then after a long pause, he asks, no, who are you really? Yeah, this is in your chapter on purpose of living. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
So first, I want to say that
Mhm.
that ego, that whole thing that you just so beautifully laid out, is true of the dominant culture in our current world.
Yeah,
It's not universal.
that's good. Yes, that's right.
There are cultures who never lost sight of these deeper ways of engaging life,
That's good.
right? And
Yeah,
it's
that's a good
so
point.
important that we honor that and that we remember that.
Mm, mm.
Also, we are part of a much larger life than just human beings. This blew my mind. This was one of those like, wait,
Yeah, yeah,
those direct, you know. So a lot I learned from research in books, but some I learned from, I wrote a question and the answer showed up. Or
yeah.
in this case, I was staying at an Airbnb. I took a week to just work on the book. And the trees told me, like,
Yeah. We're
hold up,
living.
hold up.
Yeah.
Most of the life on this planet has not bought into that whole dualism, fracture, commodification thing. That's yours trip.
Wow.
But the trees remember, the earth remembers, the rocks remember, traditional cultures remember. And what they explained to me is that it's really just a minority on the planet that has fallen prey to this ideology of domination, of
Wow.
separation.
Okay.
And so it's a matter of like, get with the majority. Right? When we stop being so arrogant to think that human beings are, it begins and ends with us,
So true. Wow.
there is so much support for us everywhere. Also in the ancestral world, in the world of those yet to be born,
Yeah.
they're all there. I know that sounds really flaky and woo woo to a lot of people.
Well, we'll get there. We're gonna talk about the woo-woo,
Yeah,
but I hear
but,
you,
but,
yes.
but life is so much bigger than what you see on your television set.
Wow.
Really. And that's why I love the mystics, because they've been talking about that forever.
Yeah.
If we can tap into that larger thing, right, the path of wholeness, it's not separate from, that's why I said not to wholeness,
Mhm.
separate from we have to somehow find our way and arrive at a place that we're not. But if we can tap into what is deepest and truest within the nature of life itself, you use the term shalom. The fuller meaning of shalom is precisely that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it is.
we tap into that, then not only does it help guide us, but it also is what gives me hope. Because otherwise, like, where are we going to find, like, why, how? We're doomed. Forget it.
You know, so for me, this reminds me a lot of the mentoring that I received from my Indigenous brothers and sisters in NATE, North American Indigenous Institute for Theological Studies.
Mm.
And Terry LeBlanc was the one of the founders of this network within which NATE came from in the early 2000s, late 90s. Um, and one day, I'll never forget a conversation. This just reminds me of my conversation with him. He's Mi'kmaq from Canada, and
Mhm.
from the current land that we now call Canada, in the north eastern part of Canada. And he said, animals have souls. And I said, what? I said, how can you say that? He was a Christian. He's a Jesus follower, right? And
Mm.
at the same time, he's also Mi'kmaq, right? And he's like, no, animals have souls. I said, what are you talking about? And in my little evangelical self, I was like, well, where do you see that in scripture? I mean, it's actually all over scripture now that I've done my work. But he was the first person to point out to me in Genesis 1 that we in the Western world focus on the image of God. Humans are made in the image of God. And that then we are the pinnacle. But
Mm.
actually, day 6 is the pinnacle. But in day six, God actually says, and all that have the breath of God.
Mhm.
And that is all living beings.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
so all that has breath. Plants have breath. Plants breathe.
Yep.
That blew my mind when I really thought about that. I was like, okay, so the scripture is talking about plant life and animals. And not just do they have the breath of God, but they have souls. They do. All you need to do is have a pet to know that. And all you need to do is scroll on Instagram for a minute to find those pet videos where those little animals are running around and they're thinking and they have desires and they're going after stuff and they have stuff that they fear. Like, do you realize for how long have we lived on this planet thinking that in that dualistic space that we are the only
Yeah.
beings that matter, and that I'm like, it is stupid. Actually, it feels stupid to say that live, but in many ways we treated them as if they did not live. And yet
Yeah.
animals and plants have life,
And earth.
and earth, yes, soil has life. That in that Christian construct, and actually, I hate to put it this way, but Judeo-Christian construct, we are charged with ministering to, charged with caring for, charged with stewarding, but we have not done that.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
not done that.
Yeah.
So you also talk about trauma as a threshold. I wonder if you could bring that out for us. That's in your thresholds of initiation chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, of course, a a longer conversation.
Yeah,
It's a very hard one to shorthand
yeah,
with and and honor it. Right.
yeah.
And I say that in part because I come from a culture that has forgotten about initiation.
Mm.
And so for me to talk about initiation as an archetype, I have to come with real care and humility
Mm.
and respect
Mm.
for those who never lost that.
Mm.
I think if we go back far enough, everybody has ancestors
Yeah,
that
that's right.
lived in harmony with the earth and followed cycles of time and seasons and the cycles of life, which included initiations.
Mhm.
But, my lineages, it's so far back there that what I look to is the teachers in the present time who have so generously shared.
Mm.
Look, I quote Malidoma Somé, who
Mhm.
really was so generous in one of his books to describe not all of it because that would be forbidden and inappropriate, but to give enough glimpses. And what Elder Malidoma also said,
Mm.
he talked about the erratic initiations of the modern world.
Mm.
That because the dominant culture in modernity doesn't have real initiatory practices. We have, remnant rite of passages, weddings, graduations, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
but no real spiritual rigor. You don't have to go to the wilderness.
Yeah, that's
You don't
right.
turn into goo for
Yeah.
right, which is what a true initiation is. But Elder Malidoma says, because y'all don't have that, life provides it for you.
Mm.
So we go through these, life changing experiences of ordeal.
Mhm.
Usually we are just being battered around, in the storm
Yeah.
and trying to find something to hold on to or self-medicating to get through it or disconnecting from ourselves in order to not feel the intensity of it.
Yeah.
But there's another choice. If we look at those disruptive life experiences, right, whether it is the cherished relationship, the diagnosis of a life-ending, threatening disease,
Yeah.
things like that, an accident that completely changes your bodily autonomy, right?
Mm.
Things that force you out of your ordinary known life into a terrifying unknown.
Yeah.
What goes back to the quote that you made before about we are not just victims of the upheaval, right?
Right.
That we can find our feet and have agency, right?
Mhm. Mm.
So to me, and this was one of those things that Spirit whispered that I then had to do a lot of research because I was not well versed in all of the nuances of this, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But if we use the archetype of initiation as a lens through which to approach those disruptive traumatic experiences of life, to see them through the archetypal process just at its simplest, right, from the way that Mal describes it. The first stage is separation. You are removed from your ordinary life.
Mhm.
In his culture, that is a choice with intention. The initiates leave the village and go into the wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's phase one, separation.
Mhm.
Phase two is the ordeal. You face life-threatening, upending, you know, experiences.
Wow.
In traditional cultures, they are held by elders who are there to guide. We don't have that in the dominant culture today.
That's right.
There's this clergy, may or may not be equipped to hold those ordeal experiences. If we do, we're probably holding them with a different set of tools and a different lens. But to see it as part of an initiatory process,
Mhm.
that also then allows us to have some kind of a map to how do we resolve those and come into the third stage, which is return and being welcomed by the community in our new self.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I was a caterpillar. I went through hell. Now I'm a butterfly. Y'all see me? Y'all, like,
I come back. Here I am, a butterfly.
How do I be a butterfly? Right? I need somebody to help me process and integrate what I went through and to help guide me as I live into this, post initiation. There's a beautiful program that I mentioned in the book. What is it? Now I've forgotten. It's been so long. Ritual for Return. Ritual for Return.
Mhm.
And it is done with folks who have been incarcerated for a
Oh,
period,
yes.
which is the way they frame it. That's it. You're separated from your regular life. You get locked up,
Mhm.
go through hell. You probably had a whole lot of trauma in your life that led to conditions that got you into incarceration,
That's right.
social, everything.
Mhm.
Um, and then you're just spit back out without support for integration, for the completion of what they are calling an initiatory ordeal, a rite of passage. So they create rites of passage for folks who are coming out of incarceration
Mhm.
that include a deeper appreciation for who they are, for what is their deeper purpose. A lot of the things I talk about in the book,
Yeah, yeah.
traditional initiation, part of it is to really answer Dr. Thurman's question, who am I really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Purpose? What's my contribution?
Mm.
Elder Malidoma says, the initiation is to become something that will then give to the community. It's not isolated me.
Mhm.
It is part of this collective body
Mm.
of the community. What does the community need? And what is my calling within that?
Can I speak into this for a second or just pose a question to you? Because as you're speaking, I can't help but think about where we are right now in our world. I mean, I think about, and I've talked about this several times before, the 600,000 women, Black women, who are now unemployed.
Hmm.
And that is the traumatic event that happened in their lives over this last year. Um, I think about the, is it 200,000 now, um, immigrants that have been picked up
Mhm.
and by ICE. I mean, it is, oh my God, the
And
millions of
yeah, I-
families that have been thrown into, like, you know what I mean? Like thrown into this, this space. I mean, it is hard to hold on one level. It is hard to hold that as initiation. And yet, honestly, it helps.
right,
It helps me. It
right.
helps me to ask the question of, okay, we, these two groups especially, but really everybody, farmers who are committing suicide at record rates
Mhm.
now also included in that number because they cannot farm given the economic um, bombs that have been thrown into their work system. You know, chief among them having no actual farm workers. Hello, somebody, because they're not coming to work because they're getting picked up by ICE. Um, so all of this,
Yeah,
seeing it as initiation, but it's not just initiation as in like hazing. It's not a hazing.
right.
You could say that. You could say it's hazing, but
No,
it's not. It's
no.
I like putting it together with what you had in the first chapter, which is it's initiation into the new world. You're being broken down into that goo so that you can be reformed in a shape that is necessary for the new world that is coming.
Mhm. And I just want I just I'm sorry, were you
No,
ready?
I'm just that will preach.
We're
Okay, and now you're gonna
at
correct me a little bit, and that's okay.
right, and the table talk over each other because we get excited. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I all of that, and that was really the point of where I was going. The whole book, it goes between the individual and the collective, the
Yeah.
microcosm and the macrocosm. That we must be working on both all the time.
Mhm,
But I want to be really clear, right, that by calling it an initiation in this collective that you listed so beautifully of these different, for instances of a thing,
mhm.
does not let the society that perpetrates the injustice off the hook. It is not to say, oh, well, this is all good because it's an initiation.
Oh, hell no.
But no and no.
Hell to the no.
And so it's, again, another both and.
Mm,
We must work on both levels or on all the levels, right? Yes, there is profound social injustice that must be addressed at the level of systems and structures.
mhm,
And at the same time, there is a deeper spiritual invitation of how we can use even the worst shit to deepen in in the fullness of who we be, right? Because our purpose is not, to me, not as much about what we do,
mhm.
but the quality of being that we are here to live into during our earthly sojourn.
That's really
And
good.
then out of that being, then the doing emerges.
Mhm.
But you can express your purpose, the who are you really part, Dr. Thurman, yeah,
Right.
in any number of doings.
Yeah. You
And
s
so it's when shit gets hard
Yeah.
that we have to go deep. So these times we can't do this on the surface. We can't get through these times like a water bug, right? We have to go deep in order to find something that can sustain us, that can guide us. And when we go deep, we also find our connection. All my hands are off camera, but I talk a lot with my hands, and
We
I'm
can see
I'm
them, we
doing.
can see your hands, we're good.
But when you go, and this is a direct Dr. Thurman, when you go down deep enough in yourself, you come up inside of everything else. That
Mm,
at that deepest level is where the wholeness, the oneness can be found. And that, again, not to excuse the conditions of injustice,
no, 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 not at all.
engage them as a doorway
Mhm.
that invites us to go deep enough to connect with our truest self and with the oneness and wholeness of life. That's when I say we're not helpless victims of a thing, but we have agency in how we engage it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. You also talk about the pandemic as a squandered invitation
Yes.
for
Mhm.
us to go deeper. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Lisa, I think life, spirit, whatever language we use, is so generous, really, so patient with us and so generous.
Mm.
We keep getting offered opportunities, right? You
Wow.
know, you would think that climate crisis would bring everybody to it would be like all hands on deck, put aside your petty differences,
Right.
let's come together
You would think.
and change direction here.
Yes.
We didn't do it. So then we get COVID. The whole world is in the same condition. I mean, our
Whoa!
conditions of it were unique depending on our social status and how crazy our country was, but we're all facing a thing.
Yes.
There was so much compassion. There was so much. I mean, that's when we started Zooming. And like, I'm in several Zooms that meet regularly with people around the world doing prayer work for the planet and all of life. That
Wow.
wasn't available to us before.
Yeah.
There was also tremendous outpouring of mutual aid, mutual, like we got us was for real, for real.
Yeah.
In so many places.
Mhm.
That could have been another opportunity to come out of the ordeal of the initiation in a new way, to integrate those new ways of being together.
Mhm.
And yet, what do? Go back to normal, back to shopping, back to militarism, back to capitalism. I mean, so once again, we declined the invitation that life offered us to remember our interbeing with all of life, with each other as humans and with the planet. Look how the planet responded.
Yes.
We gave her a rest.
I mean, clear skies, clear water. It was amazing. People saw in the Atlantic Ocean, I mean, off of New Jersey, which is always brown, always mucky. All of a sudden, there wasn't so much. You could actually see some of the fish. It was like,
Mhm,
what?
mhm.
Unheard of. And nobody thought that was possible. And it was because we were taken out of our normal routine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have to say, my battery is getting really low. I'm going to just reach uh, in this same
Go
room,
on,
grab a
do
little
what you
thing
need
I
to
can
do.
plug into it.
No, you do what you need to do. Wow. Okay, everybody. I know that I don't know if you're feeling it, but I'm feeling like, my God, we could literally go 3 hours in this conversation. We've already been going for an hour. So we're not going to go much longer, but I do want to ask you if you have questions for Dr. Rankow, please write your questions into the chat. Also, please support us. Please support the work of Dr. Rankow on Substack and in other spaces. You can reach her and you can always find her at Liza J Rankow .com. Isn't that right? Like Liza J.
Without the J, just lizaranko.org.
LizaRankow.org.
And
Um, yeah.
and also, since that can be like, how do you spell that? And I forgot what she said. Soulmedicinebook.com will get you to the same place.
Oh, I love that. I love when that too. That was good. Thank you. So yeah, so make sure that you're supporting her work. Make sure that you're subscribed over here so that we're going to start pushing out some subscriber only content in 2026, and I want you to get that. And don't be hindered by the paywall. We want you to actually have access to that stuff. Really awesome, great stuff that's coming up. And also, it really helps. Literally, every subscription literally helps us to continue to do this work. So thank you so much, first of all, for clicking in, and second of all, for supporting this work, which is, I believe, sacred work. It's work that nobody else is paying for. And so we decided to put it here in a place where people have the ability to invest um, in our collective transformation, um, becoming goo and then being remade. So we really could go for a long time, and I have so many more questions, but
Well,
we're
we'll have another cup of tea together, my dear.
that's what we need to do. We're gonna have to do a part two. Can we do a part two?
I'd love it.
Let's do a part two. Okay. We'll schedule it. We'll get it on the calendar, and we're gonna do a part two. I'm so excited for that. But before we stop, because I want people to know where this book is going, that it's going towards that wider belonging. And the last four chapters are life, death, ancestors, and coming generations. Like, you are expansive in your vision of what this transformation is bringing. And then deep listening. So not only are you expansive, but you are also, again, digging really deep, that Howard Thurman, going deep until you become part of the whole. And then dream and imagine, and then finally healing the soul of the world. Okay, somebody. So Dr. Rankow does not think small. Okay, we're gonna heal the soul of the world here. And so I have a few just closing questions for you. Um, can I ask you, how do you feel about God today?
Well, my idea about God is, as you might guess, very expansive.
Yeah, yeah.
And I am madly in love with the infinite, the source, the spirit, the divine, however, the wholeness,
Yeah.
sacred life, capital S, capital L.
Mm.
Uh, the language is so difficult because we have so many different overlays on whatever term we pick.
Yeah.
And no term can ever be adequate to describe something that we can't even conceive. How are we going to
Mhm.
box it into a word or two,
So true.
right?
So true.
But no, listen, I'll start crying, shouting, and running around a room because when you tap into the immensity of love and wisdom and support that is everywhere, I don't know how anybody stays on the planet without a sense of connection. And that's why belonging is so central. Now,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you have to be a theist or any particular religion, but go sit with a tree, go sit with a loved one,
Mhm.
go sit with a song or a poem.
Mm.
Get your hands in the dirt. Um, Look at the cloud. I mean, there's just everywhere is a place to connect. Light a candle and just look for an ancestor, a healthy ancestor who loves you.
Healthy is the key word there.
And pray for the ones that aren't quite healthy yet because they can transform too,
That's
right?
good.
They don't get, frozen in time about whatever their consciousness was when they died.
Mhm.
Are also evolving.
And how do you feel about people today, humans, humanity?
Oh, bless humans. Bless humans. I wish more humans would wake up.
Mhm.
I really do. Um, I I I love the best of what's in humans,
Mhm.
you know, our creativity, our curiosity, um, our compassion, right? And when that gets damaged, what humans are capable of in terms of harm and cruelty just breaks my heart, Lisa. It breaks
Mhm.
my heart. It used to just make me angry,
Yeah, yeah,
but then it just makes me sad.
yeah.
But have to be like,
No, it doesn't have to be this way, as my friend Andre Henry says. I am I'm actually really excited that Michael Ray Matthews is listening in. He's here.
oh, hi, Michael Ray.
So Michael Ray, hello. He's my buddy, my brother,
He's
and
good.
our friend here. And he was just on with the four. So we have a podcast that we did
I've watched.
a few years
I,
back.
I'm a
Oh,
fan before.
oh, fabulous. Thank you. We loved it. We have so much fun. But he just suggested that we continue this conversation with the four. Hello, somebody. We can do that. We can do that. Hello. That was a great idea, Michael Ray. And Michael Ray also said, I mean, he's like, pleased with the four. In your experience, he has another question here. So, are groups of people of no or many faiths finding ways to have this vital conversation collectively? It's a great question.
I have no idea. I have no idea if groups of people who are part of a tradition are finding ways to have this conversation collectively. We're doing it here.
Yeah.
We're doing it in our writing, in our speaking, in our having a cup of tea with a friend at the table, off camera. You know, I think it's happening in all kinds of pockets. I think it's happening in Zoom gatherings that nobody knows about.
Mhm.
It's happening in prayers that we offer when we can't sleep at night. I think it's happening, but it's happening below, it's not on the news, right?
Right,
It's not being reported.
right.
Um, there
Well,
are some organizations that identify as nuns or however. just don't even bother with labels.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an organic spirituality, an organic life of the sacred
Mm-hmm.
that some of the most spiritual people I know don't believe in a deity. It's like if we can just get rid of what have been the categories for judging who is and who isn't and what is and what isn't.
Yeah.
And so that's why to me this idea of a sacred wholeness is so helpful,
Mm.
because people from any faith tradition or no faith tradition
Mhm.
can feel welcomed in.
Mm. You know what's funny is that, I mean, I think about this. I know there are people from the evangelical faith tradition who are watching right now, who are listening, and who are going, "Eh," like that just literally went, "Eh," right? Because it's like, but what about Jesus? But
I'd
I'm,
like what about Jesus?
oh, I'm sure.
Jesus was down with all Jesus was a mystic.
Come
Je-
on.
Jesus had nature as a teacher, that he tried to explain truth to people through the teachings of nature.
Yes.
Thing that we have talked about today. Jesus went into the wilderness and did some,
All the things.
and he
All
came
the
out
things.
and stop doing this unjust economic social harm, because there's oneness. There's love. That's the real thing. Jesus, I'm down with Jesus. I'm not
I mean,
I'm not so down with Paul most of the time, but
oh, that's funny. Well, we can talk about that. That's a whole other podcast conversation. But I want to just say that Jesus talked about the way, even the first church was called the way. It was the Jesus way. And the way was the way of love. And Jesus said over and over and over again that it is your love that will be the identifier, is if you are a follower of me. If you love, then you can count yourself as a follower of me. And he said to his disciples, there, I have sheep you know not of. Like, I know I have people out there that you don't have a clue. And from my perspective, I actually understand that to be that there are people like Rob Reiner, who was an atheist,
mm,
who actually understood and expressly through his mouth said, I believe the Jesus way. Like he was an atheist, and yet his whole life was formed around the call to love your neighbor,
mm,
to love your neighbor.
right.
And I believe in doing so, it is not possible. It is not possible for us to love our neighbors and our enemies without loving God. I don't think it's possible. Or a conception of God, whatever that conception is, it's not possible. So I believe that if we actually believed the words of Jesus, which call us to love, he says, if you do what the Good Samaritan did, you'll do well. Love without limits. You'll do well, as in you will inherit eternity, eternal life, eternal kind of life. Um, you're going to do well. He did not say, if you confess XYZ, then you will do well. And that is where the dualistic, white, Western, evangelical, I believe, project got it wrong. Um, and honestly has led us further down the path into um,
Yeah.
into the ethics of domination. And
Yeah.
this is where it gets us. It gets us exactly where we are right now, the ethics of domination.
Yeah.
So,
And
Liza,
other conversation for another day.
yes. Oh my gosh, this has been so wonderful, and I can't even believe we've been going for an hour. But thank you so much for coming. I do have one last question.
Sure.
How do you feel about the future today?
Also, not a short answer question.
Mm-hmm.
When I said humanity is headed full speed towards the cliff edge, the question is, will we turn in time? I don't know the answer to that, Lisa.
Yeah, that's right.
which is why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, both by putting the book out in the world and trying to share these ideas, but also the spiritual work that I do, the invisible work of, through prayer and other forms of practice.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the stakes are so high, the cliff edge is so close that we have to do everything we can to give our whole selves. Now, that's going to be a different thing for everybody.
Yeah.
For some people, it is being in the streets. For some people, it is being at the prayer altar. For some people, it is tending, to the care of bodies and psyches, or parenting children, or growing food in harmony with the earth. Right? I've given up trying to hierarchize, if that's even the right word, but to judge
Prioritize
what's
or
better.
something.
This one is lesser.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's like, who are you really? What is your soul's calling in these times?
Mm-hmm.
And then live into that with everything you can, because we're at a point where really we have nothing to lose. If we're going over the cliff edge, let's give everything we can and prayerfully catalyze an awakening so we don't have to go over the edge. Now, if we do go over the edge, and this is again like in the last minute of the conversation, it's not the time to have this one,
Okay.
but there have been successive worlds. There, both traditional cultures whose memory goes back hundreds of thousands of years in an unbroken lineage.
Mm.
And there's archaeological evidence. That's what, like, I saw that. It's like, oh, well, I don't even have to, you know,
Right.
no
Right.
matter, there's evidence of successive worlds.
Mm.
And it's like, those video games where then everything game over and you have to start in it.
Yeah.
So will we have to do game over
Mm.
and a remnant of human beings begin again
Mm.
in this experiment?
Mhm.
But it helps me to remember that we are part of something that began long before we got here and will continue long after we're gone,
Mm.
right? Not on any one of us in any one season in the history of the world
Mhm.
to complete it,
Mhm.
but it is on us to contribute what is ours to give.
Mm. Can I say amen?
Amen,
And
darling.
ashe.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Asheo.
Thank you so much, Liza. This has
Thank
been fabulous and life-giving.
Good for me too.
Yeah, I'm just like literally I'm gonna be sitting in this for a long time. And everybody, we're gonna be putting out the clips over the next week. So please share the clips with your friends and in your network so that we can spread this really great news, actually. Um, Spread the word. So God bless you. God keep you. God keep your face upon the light. And everybody, we will see you back here next week, and with another kitchen table conversation. After we're going to do it on the 26th, the day after Christmas, and let's have some conversation about the end of 2025. So, hallelujah. We made it. We made it. We made it to the end of 2025. That's that conversation. So come back. We're going to have fun, actually. And we will also definitely be having you back, Liza. If not just with me, then definitely with the four, or maybe in both spaces.
I,
So,
I'm down for all of it. I
yeah,
had a great time, Lisa. Thank you for being such a wonderful host. It's been a pleasure and an honor to sit at your table. And I look forward to more visits and rich conversation in the future.
thank you. What's your word as you're exiting? What's the word?
Ooh, heartfulness.
Ah, yeah, I think overflowing is my word.
Hmm.
Overflowing. Everybody, God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.